State's objection to defendant's motion to suppress. Now comes the State of Indiana by Prosecuting Attorney Nicholas C. McClelland, and respectfully objects to the defendant's motion to suppress and would ask the court to deny the same, and in support of said motion states the following. That on May 19, 2023, the defendant filed a motion to suppress the evidence seized as a result of a search warrant executed on the home of the defendant on October 13, 2022. 2. That the defense alleges that the search warrant was unreasonable under the Indiana and federal Constitution and that it lacked probable cause. That it failed to establish that the items to be seized were in the residence or could be expected to be in the residence. That the affidavit failed to provide particular information that particular items related to a particular crime would be found in the home, and that the affidavit failed to connect generic items to actual items that were possibly used in the crime. 3. That in September 2022, while reviewing the evidence in the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, investigators discovered an interview that was done with Richard Allen in 2017 by Indiana Conservation Officer Dan Doolin. 4. That in the 2017 interview, Richard Allen admitted being on the trail the day that Abigail Williams and Liberty German went missing. 5. That he stated that he was on the trail between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m., and that while he was on the trail he was using his phone. 6. That on October 13, 2022, investigators invited Richard Allen and his wife Kathy Allen to speak to them and follow up on that interview done in 2017. 7. That both Richard Allen and Kathy Allen came to the interview on their own on October 13, 2022, were not under arrest, and were free to leave the interview at any time. 8. The investigators learned from those interviews that Richard Allen reaffirmed that he was in fact on the trails that day that Abby Williams and Liberty German went missing, and further admitted to being on the High Bridge. That he also told investigators that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with the hood, and that he was wearing a head covering. That was 9. 10. That further, Richard stated that he did own guns and that the guns were in his home. 11. That investigators learned from Kathy that Richard Allen still had guns and knives in the home, along with the blue Carhartt jacket. 12. That investigators believed a firearm was involved in the abduction and murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German because the unspent .40 caliber round was found between the bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 13. That investigators believed a knife was used in the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 14. That the clothes that Richard Allen described wearing the day he was on the trails matched the description of the man seen on the bridge from the video taken by Liberty German's phone. 15. That it was also gathered that Richard Allen still possessed the firearms, knives, and the clothing, and said items were in his house. 16. That based on this information, investigators prepared a probable cause affidavit with the search warrant for the home of Richard Allen. 17. That the probable cause affidavit covers all the information that law enforcement had gathered in the investigation up until October 13, 2022. 18. That investigators applied for the search warrant on October 13, 2022, and the same was granted that day by Carroll County Circuit Court Judge Benjamin Diener, herein attached as State Exhibit 1. 19. Investigators went to the residence of defendant located at 1967 North Whiteman Drive, Delphi, Indiana, knocked on the door and executed the search warrant around 5 p.m. on October 13, 2022, and the search warrant was complete around 7:09 p.m. 20. The defendant and his wife were asked to be out of the residence while the search warrant was executed, but were allowed back in the residence immediately afterwards. 21. Investigators found several items in the residence, including firearms and electronic devices, all of which is outlined in the search warrant. Return attached herein as State's Exhibit 2. That on Monday, February 13, 2017, at approximately 1:50 p.m., Abigail and Liberty German were dropped off by a family member at the Monon High Bridge Trail off of County Road 300 North. On Tuesday, February 14, 2017, at approximately 12:17 p.m., the girls were found deceased. Their bodies were located in the woods northeast of the Monon High Bridge. Autopsies of the girls ruled their deaths as a homicide, and their wounds were caused by a sharp object. Investigators located Liberty German's iPhone 6S under her body at the scene and were able to recover a video approximately 43 seconds in length, captured at 2:13 p.m. on February 13, 2017. The video depicts Abby walking on the Monon High Bridge towards Liberty, while a male subject wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. Near the end of the video, the man is heard in the video telling the girls, "Down the hill." Through further investigation of the location of the bodies, investigators also located a .40 caliber unspent round. They also determined that the articles of clothing from the girls were missing from the scene, including a pair of underwear and a sock. Through the investigation, there were interviews done with 3 of the 4 girls that were on the trails that day. The girls observed a male on the trails on February 13, 2017 that matched the description of the male on the video recorded by Liberty German. The 3 girls identified as RV, BW, and AS encountered this male near the bench east of the Freedom Bridge. The girls were on the trail and were walking towards the Freedom Bridge to go home. The male they encountered was walking from the Freedom Bridge towards the Monon High Bridge. One of the girls, identified as AS, described the male as an older man walking on the trails as they were leaving, and she described him as kind of creepy. In a text from Anna to KB, AS described the man as wearing like blue jeans, like really light blue jacket, his hair was gray, maybe a little brown, and he did not really show his face. Investigator Steve Mullen and Brent Ingram interviewed AS, and she described the male as wearing a blue jacket and light blue faded blue jeans. The jacket was a canvas duck type jacket. RV was also in the group of 4 girls, and she said that she said hi to the man and he just glared at them. She recalled him being in all black and had something covering his mouth. RV recalled telling her sister that someone was in a grumpy mood. She went on to describe him as not very tall and bigger build. She said that he was not bigger than 5'10". RV went on to say in an interview that he was wearing a black hoodie, black jeans, and black boots. She said that he had his hands in his pockets. An interview was conducted in 2020 of BW. She was able to show investigators a picture that she took on her phone of the Monon High Bridge with the timestamp of 12:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW showed investigators another picture she took at the bench just east of the Freedom Bridge when they were leaving at 1:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW stated after she took the picture at the bench, they started walking back towards the Freedom Bridge. BW stated that's when they walked past the man that matched the description of the individual in the picture. Detective Liggett believes the picture that she was referring to is the picture law enforcement released of the man on the bridge, taken from the video Liberty captured on her cell phone on the day of the murders. BW described the man as wearing a blue or black windbreaker jacket. She stated the jacket had a collar and he had his hood up from the clothing underneath the jacket. BW advised he was wearing baggy jeans and was taller than her. She stated her head came up to approximately his shoulder. BW said RV said hi to the man and he said nothing back. BW described the man as walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. BW also stated the man had his hands in his pockets and kept his head down. She didn't get a good look at his face but believed he was a white male. As the girls left, they crossed the Freedom Bridge and the railroad bridge over Old SR 25. And an individual by the name of Betsy Blair was returning to the trails to finish her walk. Betsy Blair is seen on the video at Hoosier Harvest Store on 300 North, traveling eastbound on the trailhead to park at 1:46 actual time. Blair saw the girls walking above and she went under the railroad bridge. On September 21, 2022, Detective Liggett was provided a tip narrative from Orion Den C 000074-01 to review. It was from the DNR Lieutenant Dan Doolin. The narrative was as follows. Mr. Allen was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30. He parked at the old Farm Bureau building and walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females and noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. He stated there were vehicles parked at the High Bridge Trail, however, did not pay attention to them. He did not take any photos or video. His cell phone did not list an IMEI, but did have the following: MEID-256 691 463 100 153 495 and MEID-HEX-990024 702 5797. Potential follow-up information. Who were the 3 girls walking in the area of the Freedom Bridge? Through the statement of Mr. Allen, he admits that on February 13, 2017, he parked his vehicle at the old Farm Bureau building from 1:30 to 3:30 and was on the trails at that time. There is no old Farm Bureau building anywhere close to the trails or bridges. Detective Leggett believes he is referring to the old Child Protective Services building. In 2017, Richard Allen owned a 2016 black Ford Focus and a 2006 gray Ford 500. Upon review of the video collected from the Hoosier Hardware Store on February 13, 2017, investigators were able to locate a vehicle that appears to match Allen's 2016 Ford Focus on the video at 1:27 actual time. This coincides with Allen saying he was at the trails around 1:30. Previously said above, RV, BW, and AS were leaving the trails and passed by a male matching the description of the male in the video taken by Liberty. Given the statements by Allen and the timestamp of the video from the Hoosier Hardware Store and the statements by 3 of the 4 girls, Detective Liggett believes that the male the 3 of the girls saw was in fact Richard Allen. Allen stated that after he passed the girls and then he walked to the Monon High Bridge and saw nobody else. Investigators believe that after passing the Hoosier Hardware Store at 1:46, Blair parked at the trailhead entrance across from the Mears residence. In her interview, she says there are no other cars at the trailhead entrance at that time. She walked to the Monon High Bridge and a male matching the male from Liberty's video. She described him as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jean jacket. This matches the blue duck canvas jacket AS describes. Blair said that the male was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge approximately 50 feet away from her. Blair turned around at the bridge and continued her walk. Approximately halfway between the bridge and the main hub of the trails, she passed 2 girls walking towards the High Bridge. Blair said that she believed it was Liberty German and Abigail Williams. At 1:49 on the Hoosier Hardware Store video, there is a white car that matches Kelsey German's vehicle. Liberty and Abigail would have been dropped off right before this video. Blair finished her walk and is seen on the Hoosier Hardware Store video leaving westbound at 2:14. Blair said that she saw no adults other than the male on the bridge. As Blair was leaving, she noted a vehicle was parked in an odd manner at the old Child Protection Service building. She said that it was not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but it was odd that it was backed in near the building. She said that vehicles often use the south edge of the parking lot so they are closer to the trail to get to the Freedom Bridge. Detective Liggett reviewed a tip DIN-C001751 from Terry Wilson. Wilson was on his way to Delphi on February 13, 2017 on the Hoosier Heartland Highway at approximately 2:10. He observed what he described as a purple PT Cruiser or a small SUV type vehicle parked on the south side of the old CPS building. Wilson said that it was backed in to conceal the license plate of the vehicle. During their interview, both Blair and Wilson drew a diagram and had the vehicle they saw parked in the same general area or manner. And an interview was done of Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from the Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared that he had gotten into a fight. Investigators determined from the video that she was on 300 North at 3:57 p.m. Richard M. Allen was interviewed by investigators on October 13, 2022, at the Investigation Center. He was interviewed by Detective Liggett and Carroll County Prosecutor Investigator Stephen Mullen. He agreed to come to the center and speak with investigators. He was advised his rights, and he was further advised that he was not under arrest and was free to go. Investigator Mullen explained to him how to leave the center if he so desired. He stated that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017. He further stated that he saw 3 girls on the trails east of the Freedom Bridge, and also that he went on the Monon High Bridge. He also told the investigator that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood on that day. He stated he also wore some type of head covering. He further claimed that he saw no one else but the 3 girls that he observed east of the Freedom Bridge. Further, prior to the interview, he told investigators that he also had guns at his home. Richard M. Allen's wife, Kathy Allen, spoke to investigators as well. She confirmed that Richard did have guns and knives at the residence. She also stated that Richard still has a blue Carhartt jacket. The evidence gathered shows that on February 13, 2017, that 4 girls, RV, BW, AS, and IV, were on the trail when they observed a male individual walking on the trails towards the Monon High Bridge. The male was wearing clothes similar to the clothes of the male depicted in the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators know that this male is the last known individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams before they were murdered. Further, Betsy Blair was shown a picture of the individual on the Monon High Bridge, and she says that's the same individual that she witnessed on the trails and on the bridge. In an interview with Richard M. Allen done on October 13, 2022, he admits that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017, and walked past 3 girls and continued on the Monon High Bridge. He stated that he was physically on the bridge. After Betsy Blair sees this individual, there are several other individuals on the trail that don't observe the man or Liberty German or Abigail Williams. Sarah Carbaugh then observes a man walking down 300 North with a blue jacket and jeans, and that he is muddy and bloody, as if he had just been in a fight. She is shown a picture of the man on the bridge, and she stated it's the same man she observed walking on 300 North. Investigators believe that Richard M. Allen is the last individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Investigators further believe that Richard M. Allen is the individual depicted on the Monon High Bridge from the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators believe Richard Allen was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. because he was in the woods with Victim 1 and Victim 2. An unspent .40 caliber round between the bodies of Victim 1 and Victim 2 was forensically determined to have been cycled through Richard Allen's 6-hour Model P226. The 6-hour Model P226 was found at Richard Allen's residence, and he admitted to owning it. Investigators were able to determine that he had owned it since 2001. Richard Allen stated he had not been on that property where the unspent round was found, and he did not know the property owner, and that he had no explanation as to why the round cycled through his firearm would be at that location. Furthermore, he stated that he never allowed anyone to use or borrow the 6-hour Model P226. Investigators believe that after the victims were murdered, Richard Allen returned to his vehicle by walking down CR 300 North. Investigators believe he was seen by Sarah Carbaugh walking back to his vehicle on CR 300 North with clothes that were muddy and bloody. Tony Leggett, along with investigators, believe the statements made by the witnesses because they corroborate the timeline of the death of 2 victims, as well as coincide with the admissions made by Richard Allen. Further, the accounts relayed by Betsy Blair, RV, BW, and AS are similar in nature, and timestamps of photographs taken by BW correspond to the times the juvenile female said they were on the trail and saw the male individual. Investigators believe Richard M. Allen committed this kidnapping, which resulted in the killing of Victim 1 and Victim 2. From their prior conclusions, investigators believe Richard M. Allen was the male depicted on Victim 2's video saying, "Guys, down the hill." They believe Richard M. Allen was carrying his 6-hour Model P226 on that day due to the cycled round matching that firearm was located within feet of victim 2's body. They further believe he was carrying a Sig Sauer model P226 from the audio from victim 2's video, in which investigators believe they hear the sound of a gun being cycled and one of the victims mentioning a gun. Investigators believe after that time victim 1 and victim 2 were removed from the bridge by Richard to where their murders occurred. Charges were filed against Richard M. Allen on October 28, 2022, for 2 counts of murder. Once Richard M. Allen was taken into custody, he was moved to the Westville Correctional Facility, which is part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, for safekeeping. He has been in said facility since November of 2022. When Richard M. Allen entered the facility, he was placed in the segregation unit for his protection. In the segregation unit, his cell is equipped with a video recorder which records his activities within the cell. There are also logs indicating when Richard M. Allen leaves the cell and for what purposes. He is also being seen by medical providers and mental health specialists to evaluate his physical condition and monitor his mental health. Richard M. Allen also has the ability to use a tablet in his cell and send text messages, make phone calls, and listen to music. Upon Richard M. Allen's arrival to the facility, he was placed on watch because of certain statements he made about harming himself. Throughout his stay, his mental health improved to the point that he was taken off of watch. He was also participating in recreation time and beginning to exercise. The facility reports that he was doing well and that they had no issues or concerns. His day-to-day demeanor was that he was quiet, read a lot of books, did crossword puzzles, and exercised daily. On April 3, 2023, Richard M. Allen made a phone call to his wife Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard M. Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard M. Allen admits that he committed the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife Kathy Allen ends the phone call abruptly. Soon after, attorneys for Richard M. Allen filed an emergency motion to modify safekeeping order. In that motion, the defense states that Richard M. Allen's mental state has declined because Westville Correctional Facility is unfit and that he should be moved. Defense also makes allegations that his mental health has declined due to the point where Richard M. Allen has been deprived of his constitutional right to assist in his defense of this case. Further, defense alleges that his mental capacity has declined because of his incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility. Defense has also challenged that his treatment is unconstitutional. Soon after, investigators were made aware by the warden of Westville Correctional Facility that Richard M. Allen began to act strangely. Richard M. Allen was wetting down paperwork he had gotten from his attorneys and eating it. He was refusing to eat and refusing to sleep. He would go days on end refusing to sleep. He further broke the tablet that he used for text messages and phone calls. He went from making up to 2 phone calls a day as of April 3, 2023, to not making any phone calls at all. To date, Richard M. Allen still has not made a phone call since April 3, 2023. On April 14, 2023, Richard M. Allen was evaluated by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist to discuss his turn in behavior and whether or not there was a need for involuntary medication. The panel would also discuss moving Richard M. Allen to a different facility that has a psychiatric unit. From that meeting, it was determined that Richard M. Allen did not need involuntary medication and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Richard M. Allen is now sleeping and eating. His behavior is returning to what was prior to making the admission on April 3, 2023.